Hello, Stuart, the Unrepentant Atheist, and today I'm going to be making a few comments. I won't call it a review because I'm not going to say enough to make it really a full-scale review, but some comments on the debate between Matt Dillahunty and Kenny Bomer, and the debate title is Islam True? So the debate lasted, quite a long time really, given the limited scope of what was actually going on, and I found it quite unsatisfying because Kenny Bomer's basic argument was that there are certain things stated in the Quran which point to scientific truths that we now know about, which only a divinity could have inspired 1400 years ago. I mean, the two principal the two principal truths that he puts forward as evidence that Islam is true. One is that there's a quote in the Quran to the extent that um, it was known that the universe is expanding. The heaven, the maker of the heaven and earth, and the expander of these is quoted in the Quran. The expander is taken to mean that uh, the creator God, in other words, Allah, he's the originator of everything, the prime mover, the first cause, created the heavens and the earth and presumably the universe, and that this is all expanding, and he calls himself the expander. This is something that science didn't really know until the last 50 or 60 years, and he's saying that the Quran knew it. In the Quran, it stated 1400 years ago. Matt counters that and says, well, you're doing what a lot of religions do, like Christianity. You're looking at something, you're cherry picking after the fact. You're going through the Quran, you manage to find something that fits, and you're doing it after the fact, and you're ignoring the bulk of things which are wrong, and you're cherry picking. So that's one of them. The other one is that Kenny claims that in the Quran it says that uh, it effectively, well, it seems to me a fairly pathetic point that um, we're made of water. And Matt counters that and says, well, we're not made of 100% water. Um, we depend upon water to survive, and obviously 1400 years ago people knew this. People knew how important water was, so it's not terribly remotely impressive that people 1400 years ago wrote down that water's important. Good point. So that's one of them. But he does keep going back. Kenny does keep going back to this thing about Allah, the great expander. He was expanding the universe. My thoughts on that. The Quran's quite a big book. I mean, if you go through it, if you're really determined, you will be able to find certain things that you can interpret after the fact. And I think this is one of those cases. What do they exactly mean that he's the expander? Well, I mean, you could take it literally, you could take it figuratively. I know that when I was growing up, people used to say to me, "You need to, Stuart, you need to expand as a person." Now, what does that mean? I thought, what do they want me to do? Get bigger physically? Or maybe no. Maybe broaden your horizons, improve yourself. And is it possible that in the Quran it simply meant that there is the universe, there's the earth and the heavens, and that um, from from the Islamic perspective, expanding could just simply mean making more Muslims in the world, expanding the influence of Islam. It could just simply mean that. But okay, let's suppose that it did mean that Allah is the expander not the expander of Islam, although he's obviously going to be that, but the expander physically of the universe. Let's take it literally. So what? The universe can do one of three things. It can either stay the same size it is, it can get smaller, it can shrink, or it can expand. I suppose there's another possibility. It could go out of existence. I suppose there's a fourth. There may be more possibilities, but I can think of four. But realistically, three possibilities in terms of the size. And if you were writing back then, and you had a 1 in 3 chance of getting something right, and it seems to me more likely that if you revere a god, you're more likely going to say it's an expander rather than saying something's going to stagnate or it's going to shrink. You're probably more likely going to say that your God makes things grow. He made you grow, and he's making the universe grow too. The bigger the universe, the more glory to Allah. So it doesn't really seem to me to be that impressive, frankly, and I'm surprised he did keep coming back to it and labouring it to the extent where Matt just kept telling him, look, you're engaged in fallacious reasoning. I teach logic, and I'm telling you this is a fallacy and it's not going to get you anywhere. And it got quite unpleasant, really, and Matt did get really angry and bad-tempered, and because he was so frustrated. It was such a narrow and limited debate between the two of them. And towards the end, somebody in the audience stood up and started shouting. Matt got angry and said, if you come down here, I'll punch you. I'll knock you out. And I think they had to escort this guy. I'm not too sure who he was. He obviously was not a great fan of Matt, but he had to be escorted out. If you want to go to the video, I think it's somewhere around 1 hour 45, 1 hour 50. So he was escorted out, and, they kind of agreed to disagree in that sense, because Kenny was saying, oh, I like Matt. And then Matt ended up saying, oh, well, I like Kenny, even though I don't agree with you. I don't know why he likes Kenny. I don't find Kenny particularly likable. I mean, he's not an offensive person. But I mean, at the same time, I didn't find him particularly likable. And to be honest with you, I don't think Matt likes him either. I think he was just being diplomatic, because Kenny put his hand out and, shook Matt's hand and everything near the end, said, we disagree and everything, but, I like you, etc., etc. And I don't think Matt likes him. So it's interesting reading through the comments. It looks like it's all atheists who are just leaving comments on this channel and just saying that, it's like a man debating a boy and all this type of thing, which I suppose is not really necessary to say that. But I was not convinced. I was not convinced that it doesn't matter to me how many true things there are in the Quran. It's, okay, so even if they manage to predict certain things or get certain things right, personally speaking, it doesn't convince me that Islam is true. It doesn't convince me that a God exists. I mean, it would have to be a lot more specific and scientific in order to convince me that they knew something then which was quite remarkable. For example, Halley's Comet. In the Quran, if they said down to the last, say, minute, how often, when Halley's Comet is next due to pass by the Earth, that would make me think, well, actually, it wouldn't make me think there's a God, I suppose. It would just make me think that they were damn good at mathematics and astronomy. But that would be far more remarkable than saying that Allah has been expanding the universe, because, as I've already said, there are only three possibilities, and, well, they would say that he's expanding it, wouldn't they? And as for water, saying that man is made of water, water was incredibly important, and Islam expanded mainly in very hot countries where water was quite scarce, and people knew that you had to drink water or you died. So That's not remarkable at all. That's it, guys. I've got nothing more to say about this debate. It wasn't one of Matt's best, but it's not really his fault because it was just he had such just a poor opponent in my opinion. But let me know what you think. That's all for now. Bye.